All right, folks, buckle up because we've got some big news. The Fed just slashed rates last week, and if you're a software developer or even thinking about jumping into the industry, this is a big deal for you. Why? Because lower interest rates don't just mean cheaper loans for homes, they mean cheaper growth for companies. And when tech companies grow, they hire, especially software developers. This could be the perfect storm for software developers to thrive. So let's dive into what this means for you and why now is the best time to sharpen your coding skills and start a software business. Let's dive in now. All right, so welcome back to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at Startup Hack, we'd love to train software developers in our licensed coding bootcamp and build custom software solutions. I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. So the Feds just slashed interest rates, and if you're a software developer or even thinking about jumping into the industry, this is a big deal. So let's break down why. So first of all, lower interest rates. Lower interest rates mean companies can borrow money at lower costs, and that's music to the ears of every tech CEO out there. Whether you're working for a large enterprise or a scrappy startup, this means that more capital flowing into software development. Why? Because when money is cheap, companies can take bigger risks and make larger investments into technology, which is usually a cost center, and that translates into more jobs, especially for tech. So when we're talking about new projects, new hires, and new innovations, so developers get ready because in about 6 months, we're going to start seeing this trickle down with this rate cut. Now, while the rate cut is immediate, the trickle-down effect for hiring and investment take a bit longer. It's not like companies are going to instantly hire 1,000 developers tomorrow, but what we can expect is a gradual shift. So around the 6-month mark, companies will start putting this cheaper capital to use, which means you'll need to start preparing now. Whether it's learning a new language or sharpening your current skill set, now is the time to get ahead of the curve. Excuse me. So now, according to the latest charts from Indeed and some other places, and I'm going to dive into these charts here a little bit because I found some pretty interesting statistics. And I know there's a lot of hate right now against the tech industry. And there's actually people fleeing the tech industry because they're saying it's never going to be the same again. And it might not ever be the same again, that term, but like I'm going to dive into that a little bit because I've got some statistics around it. But job openings in software sector are starting to go. Even without the Fed cut, the demand for software talent has been growing steadily. So when you combine that existing demand with easier access to funding, it's a perfect storm for developers to jump on board. And let's be real, if you're in software, you're already positioned well compared to other industries. The pay, it's still more than double the US median salary according to the ADP report. Now, we're going to dive into this a little bit here because as we dive into the ADP report, I want to show a couple of interesting things here. So let me switch over here to this screen. So I know a lot of people look at this graph here, and I need to get my fat head out of the way here. A lot of people look at this graph and say, see, software is dying. But I really despise this chart for a lot of reasons. First of all, I know Indeed is a big place for hiring, but at one point, I don't really love Indeed because I don't think that's really where most developers are finding their jobs. I don't think they're going to Indeed for it, but whatever. Let's go and run with Indeed for a minute here, because what you'll notice here is that this graph starts at starting the normal, quote, normal place as coming into 2020. The market was far from normal in 2020, right? There was actually a lot of other things going on here. So let's look at some of this here, because this is the other chart that I see really frequently that I see a lot of people say, oh, see, but again, they're setting this normal here in 2018. So as we look at this, a lot of people see these two charts and think, yep, software's dying. The tech market's never going to be the same again. Now, first of all, this is a 10% range, right? Like this is 10 to 15%. Now, I want to dive into some other numbers that go further back because I think that's part of the problem. Now, this is a report from 2023, but that's actually kind of my point. I want to be able to look back at some older data here. So let's look at thousands of job openings, not just seasonally, but thousands of jobs openings, right? Now, this is for everybody, but let's dive in particularly around the tech. Give me 1 second here to find these. So professional job services, right? So this would definitely be one where you will see tech fall into. Now, we see the market crash of 2008, 2009, and I do remember this. This is where it was tough to find software jobs. So when I hear people say it's tough to find a software job, I remember when we're talking about professional and business services jobs being open, in these type of ranges, right? Yeah, I think this one was the best one to include for software development. Yeah. So because that is where this one would be is the business and the professional and business services jobs, right? So I do remember this, and I remember it being a scary time for software developers. Now this is a rough market, right? 2008, 2009, 2010. This is when the market looked really scary, right? And so we're seeing jobs in the 300,000 to 500,000 range, right? Now, we saw the market crash during COVID, and that was the next lowest time, but we've seen a pretty steady incline in this field. Now, what everybody got too used to is this frenzy we saw during this rush. So everybody's hyper focused on this last little dip here, on this last run over the last 2 years or so, and it's probably continued to trend down now. But again, we're still well above where we were if you draw this line from 2017 to 2020, right? And with the growth of AI and the development around AI, we're seeing that. Now, I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket here. This is datausa.io. So it's saying right now that software developers, the 2022, and I get this is 2022, right? So this was let's go back to our chart here, right? So 2022, right? We were up at the peak, but they were still projecting, and this is new, right? So that's as of that data, but this data is 2023 data. They're still projecting a 25% increase over the next 10 years. The other things to note here: average salary 145, average mean salary. This is, these numbers are huge, and so as we dig down into this here, you can still see software developers, computer information system managers, sales managers, economists, right? And then surgeons are all the crazy outliers here. But, software developers are still, and I would say this is a non-generalized software developer, right? Just a general full stack developer. And so again, people want to go back to these charts and say, oh, look, the software market's crashing. Yeah, it's crashing from being up here, right? This was unreal. I think even some parts of this was highly unreal. I think if you were a statistician and you drew a line here, you would say, look, we're trending toward a line somewhere around here. And that's about where we're at right now. We're right about 1.5 million open jobs. And that's I think that's what I'm trying to highlight here for you guys, right? Is I think I see a lot of people saying, oh, the job market. Yeah, the job market is different than it was in 2022, without a doubt. I'm definitely going to agree with that. But as you take a look into the closer on the data, and as you zoom out on the data a little bit and look at it, software development is still a fantastic place to be in. Now, markets trend, and that's what I'm trying to point out here. Startups have always had to work hard to secure funding. This is not new. It's actually still easier right now to secure funding, even with high interest rates, than it was when I was trying to raise funds in 2015 through 2018 for our first startup, Clean Router. But with rates dropping, investors are more willing to throw money into high risk, high reward, and ventures like tech startup. The other part is ventures have been capped on this. They haven't had a lot of places to park this money with interest rates so high. So if you've been sitting on an idea waiting for the right time to launch, this is your signal. The influx of capital can help founders bring innovative ideas to life, hire developers, and get their MVPs, a minimum viable product, off the ground. Now, larger tech companies will be able to scale faster, and we know the big players, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're going to benefit from this. Cheaper loans mean bigger buckets for R&D, acquisition, and talent. So when they drive the talent up, it drives it up for the whole market. Now, if you agree with me or disagree with me on any of this, leave a comment, because I love to have a great discussion with you guys. Best compliment I get is when you guys leave me a comment down in the comments. Now, so we'll likely see more growth in cloud computing, AI, automation, and security. I think these are really the big areas you're going to see growth in. And so as companies expand their influence in their product lines, and so guess what? They need developers for all of that. So if you're looking for stability and growth, joining one of these tech giants might be a good move. Now, I know there's been layoffs, but again, that goes with the tech industry. It's not just the tech behemoths that are winning here, though. Smaller companies that might not have the capital to hire or expand now might be able to start doing so in the next 6 months. So what does this mean for you? It means more jobs, more opportunities, and more flexibility to find the perfect fit for your career. So if you've been thinking about joining a smaller, more agile team, now might be a really good time. They'll be ready to take risks and grow in ways that they couldn't before. So let's look at the data here. Software developers are growing fast. And I've gone through this data here with you, and I'll leave those links down below, because I think a lot of times we've gotten hyper-focused into the last 3 to 4 years. What we've seen over the last 4 years is not normal. It has been the Feds, or the government has played with how much money it's injected into the economy. The Feds have had to play God by moving the interest rates around, which they've been forced to do to keep inflation down. I understand all of the economics to this. My point to this, though, is that what we're going to see is an upswing. I've seen this come over again. We can go back to this data again. Let's jump back over here really fast, because what you're going to see from this is time and time again, we see upswings, right? We see a dip, we see an upswing. We see a dip, we see an upswing. We see a dip, we see a huge upswing, right? This is the trend. When we see this trend down, and I believe this is a correction as well as a dip, and so I do think we're going to see an upswing. That is my prediction. I think we're going to see an upswing in coming months. Now, as we do that, I think you're going to see more and more people coming back to tech. I think you'll see a favorable look back at tech. I do believe there is some correction. I believe there's some people that came to tech thinking it's easy money. And look, there's no such thing as easy money. Everything's hard work. But a software developer is a great, honest career. So if you're at a time where your company has outdated systems, Startup Pack is here to help you integrate and automate your way to success. Just check out startuppack.com/Spencer. So the demand for software developers is obvious, but we're also seeing a spike in non-coding jobs that support software teams. Think project managers, UX designers, data analysts, as well as software development managers. If you've got skills in these areas, the rate cut's good news for you too. The more companies can scale and hire developers, the more supporting roles they're going to need to keep projects on track. So don't just think this is a boom just for the hardcore coders out there. This opportunity for everybody around it. Now, while software developers are in demand, there's a potential downside, and that's pay compensation. As more developers come into the market, especially with cheaper money available to companies, wages will stabilize. I think we saw a wage bubble happen because of 2022 and 2021 and 2022. I think wages were out of control. And so we're already seeing this with developers, and some of the pay is lagging behind general work pay increases. But don't panic. Developers still earn more than double the average median. The average developer still earns more than double the average median worker. So keep focusing on high demanding skills like AI, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. Those jobs are paying huge right now. You just need to stay and make sure your skills are relevant. And again, one of the best things you can do is go back and watch some of our previous videos, because we make hundreds of free coding samples. I'm actually going to spend a good chunk of my day today making a whole bunch of new free coding samples. So even though pay growth has slowed for developers a little bit, don't forget that you're still earning significantly more than the average US worker. And so according to the ADP report, developer salaries are more than double the national median. So this isn't changing anytime soon. If anything, the tech industry continues to expand, and developers will remain in high demand, especially as companies want to build out their AI solutions. So let's sum it up. Software developers are still a fantastic career choice. We're seeing historic demands for tech talent that has an estimated over 25% growth over the next 10 years. That is one of the highest categorical growth rates in any job field right now. I do think AI is going to impact a lot of other fields. I don't think it's going to replace developers. I think it will augment developers. We've talked at length about this. If you disagree, feel free to have a healthy discussion. But until I see somebody running a one-man development shop by themselves, I'm not going to believe it. And so far, as somebody who's pretty plugged in with AI, I think we're ways from that. But we are seeing historic demands for tech talents. Companies are hiring, and I do think we're going to continue to see that grow over the next 6 months as lower interest rates pour fuel onto the fire. So the bottom line, if you're a developer, it's a great position to be in right now. If you're not, now's a great time to get started. And here at Startup Hack, we have a licensed coding bootcamp, and we love training the next generation of software developers. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I love to have a great, healthy discussion. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding bootcamp and build custom software solutions for companies. So reach out because we'd love to help. Hit the links down below or go to check out startuphack.com or startuphack.com/Spencer today, and we'll catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.